Good evening to all the participants of this fifth studies circle hosted by Law and Representation Committee of GSTPM. I, Aditya Sima Pradeep, the convener of the committee, welcome you all for this study circle meeting. Today we have with us eminent faculty CA Vikas Golchha sir from Raipur. He has been the faculty with the ICI and NASIN, and he'll be guiding us on the topic of significant issues on cooperative housing societies. Uh, I would request the chairman of the LNR committee, CA Asit Shah, to offer his opening remarks.
Yeah, good evening to all of you. I would like to say that being a chairman of committee of LNR committee, last week we have met the chief CGST South Commissionerate, and we have briefed him about the activity of the association, what we are doing, and we have also represented the various problems which we are facing, mainly from the technical as well as from the procedural side. We have also requested him that let the GSTPM to be part of the grievance sale committee, because from if we see that from the central side, many times the meetings are conducted but we are not part of it, and therefore we have requested him that to have the meeting with the central part, so that we can have the interaction with them. And he was very much positive in the approach, and they have definitely said that yes, we will in a short span of time we will have the interactive meeting with our association, so that we can put our grievance. As regards the other activity, I think our president Alok Bhai is there to say something about it. So over to you, Alok Bhai.
Thank you, Ashit. Good evening to all of you. First of all, thank you to Vikas ji for accepting our invitation.
It's my pleasure, sir.
And I recognize the presence of our Vice President Shri Putlani ji, Treasurer Praveen Shinde ji, Aditya Sima Pradeep, my convener, our IT committee convener Edward Sridhar Shah, and all of you. As Ashit Bhai has already told that we have already met the principal commissioner, and we have told them to have a regular GRC meeting, which was earlier happening and all. He convinced about that, and probably in January we will have a GRC meeting, so that whatever the problems or technical problems are there, we are going to tell them. Also, we have made a representation to the GST Council, even GST Council FM, for this extension of the 9 and 9C audit also, and even for the income tax also. Even we have prepared the memorandum, pre-budget memorandum, which is already going to submit to the Finance Ministry, I think by tomorrow, day after tomorrow. As far as the activity is concerned, as I told you that the GSTPM is now going to have recently we have completed an online financial meeting where the members have benefited a lot. We have the RRC at Indore at 26 January. We are planning to have the virtual RRC, hopefully, and we'll see that many participants are going to come over there. And many more programs are going to take place in the coming week of January. I know that today there is lots of burden for all of you for this income tax audit and GST 9 and 9C. In spite of that, the people are participants. I'm seeing that many participants are joining for this session, because nowadays the government is, when they issue the notification by way of that, the GST on housing society is much complicated issue now, and people really want to know how this matter has to be simplified. Many of the housing society in Bombay, in Maharashtra, they have approached us for that seminar, and that is the reason we have this meeting. And Vikas ji from Raipur, we do not find any other person but the Vikas ji from the Raipur, so that we can hear his views and all. As far as the other activities are concerned, as you know that the GSTPM is doing very well. We have publication going to come from within 2 to 3 months, and we are doing regular activities. And I hopefully that if you have not been a member of GSTPM, please be a member of GSTPM, get the opportunity. And thank you once again to my convener Aditya Sima Pradeep, Rahul Thakkar, and my chairman Asit Shah of this committee, who has done a wonderful job for this LNR committee. And I think that because of them, our regular representation has been heard by the chief commissioner, principal commissioner, and we are getting much weighted and all. Thank you once again to all of you. Over to you, Aditya.
Thank you, President sir. I will take the privilege to introduce today's speaker, CA Vikas Golchha sir. He is a chartered accountant, a company secretary. He has also completed DISA from ICAI. He has done certificate course on GST with the ICAI, certificate course on bank concurrent audit conducted by ICAI, certificate course on cooperative society conducted by ICAI, and he's a Bachelor of Commerce with first division from PRSU. He is also empaneled as a national faculty for GST by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. He is empaneled as expert faculty on GST by National Academy of Indirect Taxes and Customs, that is NASIN. He has been the visiting faculty for Chhattisgarh State GST Department to train GST officers on different topics of GST. He has addressed more than 300 seminars and webinars on GST, in which he has trained over more than 20,000 participants on various topics on GST across India. He has been faculty in certificate course of GST, certificate course on GST organized by ICAI at Raipur in Chhattisgarh. He has handled litigations on GST and service tax along with legal associates at High Court of Chhattisgarh, Central Excise and Service Tax Appellate Tribunal, Sestat, New Delhi, Commissioner of Appeals, Chhattisgarh, with favorable outcome. He is founder of cloud-based GST academic database www.gstsamadhan.com, which is subscribed by GST officials and GST practitioners across India. He has authored 3 books on GST. One was on GST e-way bill, the other one was on GST TDS, and the third one was on GST basics. He has also been the visiting faculty of ICAI on the topics of GST, including CPRs held at NIRC Raipur. He has been the visiting faculty for Institute of Company Secretaries of India. He is currently a partner in firm SC Mahandro and Company, Chartered Accountants, Chhattisgarh, looking after the indirect tax assignments in the firm. And he has been practicing in the field of indirect taxes from last 8 years. So with this large and his recognition of work has been taken across India. Many people know him for the best of his services in India. So with this, I bring before you today's eminent faculty, CA Vikas Golchha sir. Vikas sir, it is over to you.
Thank you, Aditya ji, Ashish ji, and I'm very thankful to the GSTPAM for inviting me for this webinar and to be part of this family. So all the learned speakers are already there, Ashish ji and all the speakers are there. So it will be more of a discussion rather than a webinar by a speaker. So I'll be sharing all my presentation, and I request all the participants and all the speakers and learned faculties in the group to share their views, and if there is a contrary view, they can also share for the benefit of members across. So I'll be starting my presentation. Can I start my presentation?
Yes, please.
Okay, sir. Is this visible, sir?
Yes, visible.
Okay. So GST and Cooperative Housing Society. All are comfortable in Hindi and English, right?
I think it would be better if you can blend both the language, English and Hindi. So sure. English, it says English.
Right. Yes, sir. So GST and Cooperative Housing Society, basically there's lots of discussions there on in service tax also, lots of litigation in service tax also, and it has been carried out in GST also. In GST, the government also have a different views and different time. We will be discussing all the views shared by the government through various circulars, flyers, and all. After that, there is a retrospectively amendment also there in the GST Act to cover the GST on Cooperative Housing Society. So there is lots of going issues with respect to taxability, definitely covered under definition of supply, valuation, and all other aspects. So we will be discussing one by one, and I request all the participants, if there is any query in between, they can share on the chat box. We will be covering all the queries at the end of the session. So let's start. with the topic GST on cooperative housing society. So first, let's have a quick go through what is a cooperative housing society. So cooperative housing society entity registered under cooperative law of respective states, but does not define in CGST Act. So cooperative housing society, every state having its own cooperative societies registration act. So there's a registration in going on the every state, but CGST Act, the Central GST Act or State GST Act, does not define the term cooperative housing society or society. As per Maharashtra Cooperative Society Act 1960, they have defined the term housing society. What it says, housing society means a society, the object of which is to provide its member with open plots for housing, dwelling houses or flats, or if open plots, the dwelling houses or flats are already acquired to provide its member common amenities and services. In nutshell, we can say housing societies to form to provide services to the common amenities of all the members of society. The housing society is collectively a body of persons who stay in a residential colony society. As a collective body, they will be supplying certain services to its member, be it collectively statutory dues for its member or remitting statutory authority or maintenance of building and security. So in a nutshell, we can say it's a group of persons in a society which is working for the benefit of the members and collectively discharging their statutory dues or providing a maintenance and other services to its members. So it is all about the cooperative housing society. Now the bigger question, we will be discussing one by one the every aspect which is covered in the taxability point of view. So पहला क्वेश्चन जो दिमाग में आता है, is society and its member are separate or distinct person or not? So कि जो सोसाइटी है और जो उसके मेंबर्स है, क्या वो सेम पर्सन है या डिस्टिंक्ट पर्संस है? तो how GST law has taken out, what is the judicial judgments we have, we will be discussing one by one. First, as per section 284 of CGST Act, they have defined the term person. What is person? So the relevant extent we can say that they have included the word definition of the person, the individual, the association of person or a body of individual, whether incorporated or not in India or outside India, a cooperative society registered under any law relating to cooperative society, or society as defined as Society Registration Act 1860. So the term person as defined in Central GST Act covers these four persons. So they have given the separate legal entity status or a person status to a society and a cooperative society as the case may be, and the individual separately. So they have tried their very best to introduce the term person and derive all the society and the cooperative society under its ambit. Now moving forward, but Honorable Supreme Court judgment is there on State of Bengal versus Calcutta Club Limited, where in service tax law it was there. What they have said that where it was held that there cannot be the sale of goods or provision of services between unincorporated private clubs, association and its member owing to principle of mutuality. तो सुप्रीम कोर्ट इस केस में जजमेंट पे एक कॉन्सेप्ट पे फोकस किए कि दैट देयर इज अ कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ प्रिंसिपल ऑफ म्यूचुअलिटी, दैट इज वन कैन नॉट सप्लाई टू वन सेल्फ. मतलब एक आदमी अपने आप को सर्विसेज प्रोवाइड नहीं कर सकता, सप्लाई नहीं कर सकता, which treats such club association and its member as the same person. So in this judgment of Supreme Court, what they have said that association and its member are the same person, not a distinct person. But the CGST Act defined the term person, and this categorically said that their association of person is a separate person, cooperative society is a separate person, and society is a separate person. So Honorable Supreme Court judgment somehow the GST Act is trying to overcome this higher Supreme Court judgment, landmark judgment, where they said on the basis of concept of mutuality that one cannot supply service to itself. But later on, they have also have one section definition on business, and what they have included in the definition of business is, as per section 217 of CGST Act 2017, business includes provision by club, association, society, or any other such body of the facilities or benefit to its member. So they have deliberately inserted in the definition of business also that any services provided by club, society, or any body to its member as a business activity. So So it is giving that nature that the lawmakers have clear intent that they want to tax this transaction. Thus, considering about the above definition of CGST Act, the CGST law treats society and its member as separate person, and line with the same, it has been deliberately covered under the definition of business. बस यहाँ पर मतलब ये दो चीजें हमको क्लियर हो गई कि what the lawmakers have taken in drafting the GST law, they have defined the person and the business, and the entire concept and their mindset is on taxability of any fees paid by the member to the cooperative society or a housing society. Last, but the major problem is there that how to cover that transaction under the scope of supply, because in GST that point of taxation is the supply, not the manufacturing or provision of service or a supply of goods, but a supply. So every transaction to be taxed, किसी भी transaction को tax लगाने से पहले it should be covered under the scope of supply, section 7. So lawmakers have challenges and they are aware of the fact that if we does not add any component of this nature in the scope of supply, it will be a litigation issue and it can go either way, considering the previous Supreme Court judgment on the service tax era. So what they have said, but the tax and transaction GST must be covered in the ambit of scope of supply, section 7 of CGST Act. That is somehow missing the law to tax such transaction and stop litigating in the court of the taxability of about transaction till the retrospective amendment is CGST Act 2017 by Finance Act 2021. So what they have done, that they have retrospective amendment done in the scope of supply, section 7. So to cover entire aspect, because what they have done, they have inserted the definition, they have inserted the same terminology in the business also, but somehow it is missing on the supply definition. So now they have come out with a retrospective amendment in section 7 through Finance Act 2021. So what they have done, let's see. So what is a major amendment which gives the taxability of this transaction? First, what they have inserted. So after section 7, 1A, new clause has been inserted, and that too retrospectively from 1st July 2017. So they have amended the law, basically added one new clause there. And what it says, the activities or transaction by a person other than individual to its member or continuance or vice versa for cash, deferred payment or other valuable consideration is covered under the scope of supply. Now they have made every effort and the most prominent effort to cover this transaction under the ambit of GST. So they have inserted this clause to cover this transaction, and कोई भी litigation का matter ना हो, कोई भी high courts और Supreme Court इसमें adverse ruling ना दे revenue के against में, to take up this matter, they have done this. Even not with this, they also given the explanation. What explanation said, please read carefully. They have given the one explanation to this entry also, that for the purpose of this clause, it is hereby clarified that notwithstanding anything contained in any other law for the time being in force or any judgment, decree or order of any court. So they have intention that Supreme Court judgment jo tha, usko bhi we are overruling that judgment and we are amending the act itself. So any judgment, decree or order of the court, tribunal, authority, the person and its member of constituent shall be deemed to be two separate persons, and the supply of activity or transaction interstate shall be deemed to take place from one person to another. So they have done away with all the possibilities of treating concept of mutuality where society and member is treated as one person. So explanation also has been added with a clear-cut intent that whatever the judgment, whatever the decree, whatever the order, whatever the other laws say, we does not agree, and we have deeming fiction that society and its member are the separate person, and the services provided by society to its member is subject to GST under GST Act. So this is all what they have introduced, and that introduction is with effect from 1st July 2017. So they have tried and make a deliberate effort to done away with all the litigation which are going on. Now consequent to the amendment, इस amendment के साथ उन्होंने कुछ delete भी किया, तो what they have omitted that section 7 में जो आपका एक schedule 2 में एक line थी कि what are covered, what is goods. Schedule 2 define कि basically schedule 2 इसके लिए है कि what is goods or what is services. So for what is goods, one line is there, considering the supply of goods by any unincorporated association or body of person to member thereof for cash, deferred payment or other valuable considered as a supply is being omitted retrospectively. So यहाँ पर जो ये शेड्यूल में चीज थी जो उसको लीगल वैलिडिटी नहीं दे पा रही थी, नाउ दे हैव कम आउट विद ब्रॉडर प्रोस्पेक्ट इन AA. सो जो गुड्स की डेफिनेशन, गुड्स वहां लिखा था कि गुड्स सप्लाई करते हैं तो वो टैक्सेबिलिटी में आएगा एंड शुड बी ट्रीटेड एज गुड्स, तो उसको उस लाइन को डिलीट कर दिया. नाउ सर्विसेज और गुड्स व्हाट एवर दैट मे बी इट विल बी टैक्सेबल. सो रिट्रो यहाँ पर क्या किया, सिंपल सा वो अमेंडमेंट करके वो शेड्यूल से हटा दिया गया और मेन एनेक्टमेंट में, मेन एक्ट में इंसर्ट कर दिया गया. नाउ गोइंग फॉरवर्ड, व्हाट आर द इम्प्लीकेशन एंड चैलेंजेस विद रिस्पेक्ट टू दिस amendment? First, that this clause want to include supply of goods or services by club association to its member, and that too retrospectively from 1st July 2017 for cash, deferred payment or other valuable consideration. So it is want to taxable such transaction, tax such transaction. Overruled the honorable Supreme Court judgment we have discussed. So the basic object behind introduction is to overrule the honorable Supreme Court judgment, where they have covered the concept of principle of mutuality, that one cannot supply to oneself. And third, substantial amendment taking place retrospectively shall be tested in court of law. Now there must be some argument when the law has been amended to basically cover the taxability and that too retrospectively. So it must be tested in the court of law whether it is justifiable or not, and whether revenue is doing the right thing or not, whether this should be prospectively amended or retrospectively is good. So it should be tested in court of law. Further, the activity or transaction to be treated as supply of goods or services for levy of GST will be also a litigating issue. So goods की उन्होंने definition हटा, goods की जो schedule थी तो उन्होंने वहाँ enter delete कर दी. Now it will be a litigation issue, the supplies of goods or services. So it will be covered because it is covered under the definition of supply, but not specifically mentioned in the schedule that it is a goods or a services. And then they have deleted the omitted the entry of goods. So this will be a litigating issue from here onwards. So these are the major challenges and implication which this amendment will have. Now moving forward. Hope I am audible. I request the member concerned members, if there's any voice interruption is there, Aditya ji, please
Yes,
let me know.
You are audible, visible, and presentation is also there.
Yes.
We'll inform you if any issue is.
Sure.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay. So taxable, now next concept we want to discuss is the taxable value of supply, considering exemption up to an amount 7,500 per member per month. So what will be a taxable value is a major question right now. So we have done that. The government has made every deliberate effort to treat society and its member a separate person, and to tax this transaction they have inserted a clause in scope of supply. So all the effort has been made. Now taxability should not be questioned. There is taxable for sure, but there is one exemption. तो यहाँ पर एक exemption रोल प्ले करता है. जो exemption initially 5,000 का exemption था, जो later on amendment करके 7,500 per member per month का exemption दिया गया है for residential welfare society और housing member of housing society के जो contribution थे. तो 7,500 per month per member के जो benefit है, तो उस taxable value क्या होगी किसी transaction की अगर वो value और जो contribution है वो 7,500 से exceed करता है. So it will be a major question right now. What is the value of transaction, and specifically when the contribution exceed rupees 7,500. So let's see one by one. We will be going with the flow, which information or the judgments or the circulars or the flyers come into existence, so that we can understand what is the development in this scenario. First, Initially, as per the flyers issued by CBIC, what they have issued various flyers on various topics is, and one of the topic is GST on cooperative housing society. They have categorically stated the fact with an example when exemption limit is up to 5,000. That time initially the exemption limit given on contribution is 5,000. As reiterated below, what they have shared in the flyer, the relevant extract is, the question will then arise that if the monthly bill is say 6,000. So we have discussed that initially that 5,000 limit is there. So they have given the example of 6,000. And the same in account of services for common use of its member. Will GST be applicable on 6,000 or 1,000? In such cases, the exemption is available up to an amount of rupees 5,000 and GST will be applicable on the amount in excess of 5,000. So यहाँ पर उन्होंने clear cut mention किया कि what will be taxable if any अगर ये जो exemption limit है उसके beyond कोई contribution की रहता है तो क्या taxability होगी. So they have said clearly GST will be applicable on the amount excess of 5,000. तो 5,000 से ऊपर का जो amount है that is 1,000 will be subject to taxable. So they have clearly stated the fact in their flyers which was initially issued. The copy of which is available, we will be sharing with all the members also. The flyer issued by CBIC, and which they have shared their views, and considering that views, most of the societies have following this method and this view of the department and have paid the tax on balance portion after excluding the 5,000 exemption limit. तो क्या हुआ कि इस जब ये क्लैरिफिकेशन बोर्ड ने ही दे दिया फ्लायर के थ्रू, तो जितनी भी सोसाइटीज हैं जो जिनका मंथली कंट्रीब्यूशन 5,000 से एक्सीड करता था, लेटर ऑन 7,500 से एक्सीड करता था, दे हैव पेड कलेक्टेड एंड पेड जीएसटी ऑन बैलेंस्ड कंसीडरिंग द एग्जेम्पशन लिमिट ऑफ 7,500 और 5,000 एज द केस में भी. तो ये मेजर इश्यू हो गया कि भाई ये इस तरीके से लोग टैक्स डिस्चार्ज कर रहे थे. So now what has changed? Now what development in this prospect which have shocked all the persons who have paid tax considering this flyer? So now there's development as under. Further, for example, जो 5,000 की लिमिट है वो 7,500 हो गई with effect on 25/1/2018 through notification 2/2018 central tax rate. तो ये जो लिमिट है वो 7,500 हो गई थी. So now what they have changed, what change have done, and what are the reasons for the change, let's discuss one by one, considering the flow of amendment or the circulars and all the developments in this transaction. First, the AAR given one ruling dated 21/6/2019. The relevant extract are read as under. If a service by the applicant, a registered housing society or a resident welfare association, to its member by way of reimbursement of charges or share contribution for sourcing of goods or services from third person for common use of its member is such that it is above 7,500 rupees per month, previously it was 5,000, then the CGST and SGST appropriate rates are to be paid by the member on the full amount of the reimbursement of charges or share of contribution. Now initially उस flyer के basis में सभी ने ये mindset बना लिया था कि what is the differential amount. For example, अगर किसी society का 10,000 रुपए का maintenance है and 7,500 is limit, so they are paying they are collecting the GST on 2,500 and discharging the GST liability. Now, एक डबल एयर का जो जजमेंट आया 21/6/2019 में, जिसमें उन्होंने ये जजमेंट दिया, रूलिंग दी, जो प्रो रिवेन्यू है. हम देख ही रहे हैं कि डबल एयर और ट्रिपल एयर की जो रूलिंग्स है वो प्रो रिवेन्यू है एंड मोर देन 90% ऑफ द केसेस दे आर विद द रिवेन्यू फेवर. सो व्हाट दे हैव सेड दैट जीएसटी विल बी लेविएबल ऑन फुल अमाउंट, that there is no cutoff limit, and if any amount, a single amount is exceed the exemption limit, the entire amount will be subject to taxable. So what they want to say if the transaction is of 9,000, अगर monthly उनका जो maintenance charges है वो 9,000 रुपए है, so there will be no exemption of rupees 7,500 and entire 9,000 will be subject to GST. Now this double AR clicks the mind of the CBEC officials also. तो दिस ऑफिशियल्स तो मेजर और जो हेड ऑफिस लेवल पे जो ऑफिशियल्स हैं उन्होंने भी इस डबल एआर को केयरफुली रीड किया एंड दे हैव डिसाइडेड दैट देयर इज सम फेवरेबल रेवेन्यू implication of this double AR, but they have previous flyer on that. Now what to do? So what they have done, considering this double AR dated 21/6/2019, they have come out with one clarification, one circular dated 22/7/2019, followed by this double AR. So what they have done, so basically जो 21/6/2019 को ये डबल AR आया, इन्हीं से उन्होंने एक फेवरेबल आउटकम को कंसीडर करते हुए, रेवेन्यू इम्प्लीकेशन को कंसीडर करते हुए, they had come out with a clarification dated 22/7/2019 through a circular number 109/28/2019 GST. What they have clarified for the cases where monthly charges exceed rupees 7,500 as under. So circular has covered various aspects, but significant aspect with respect to valuation in the cases where monthly contribution exceed rupees 7,500 is as under. What they said, the exemption from GST on maintenance charges by residential welfare association from resident is available only if such charges do not exceed rupees 7,500 per month per member. In case the charges exceed rupees 7,500 per month per member, the entire amount is taxable, and they have given the specific example in that circular only. What example they have given? If the maintenance charges are rupees 9,000 per month per member, GST at the rate shall be payable on the entire amount of rupees 9,000 and not on differential amount of rupees 1,500. So what they have done, so they have a different view on the same issue with their previous flyer. So previously, initially they have a flyer which state that the tax will be on the differential value considering the exemption. Now this followed by the double AR, which rule that entire amount is taxable if it exceeds the exemption limit, followed by this circular which say in line with double AR that entire amount will be taxable if the exemption limit has been crossed. So 9,000 agar monthly charges hoga, then entire 9,000 will be subject to GST, not the differential amount of rupees 1,500. So this is the very circular in line with double AR. Now to have a favorable outcome for the SSCs, their important judgment come into picture after this. This is the important judgment with respect to this transaction of Madras High Court in the case of Greenwood Owners Association versus Union of India. The multiple associations basically filed this case and heard simultaneously, and the order came out dated 1/7/2021 to 1 July 2021 को ये order आया, the date of GST come into existence. The 1st July is the birthday of GST. So 1/7/2021 को ये order आया, and what the relevant extract with respect to valuation is read as under. तो हाई ऑनरेबल मद्रास हाई कोर्ट ने इस इशू पे, वैल्यूएशन के इशू पे क्या बोला इन पैरा 26 इज एज अंडर. The discussion as above leaves me no doubt that the conclusion of double AR as well as the circular, double AR followed by the circular, to the effect that any contribution above rupees 7,500 will disentitle the RWA, the Residential Welfare Association, to exemption is contrary to the express language of the entry in question, and both stand quest. What they have said clearly, उन्होंने क्या कहा कि जो सर्कुलर है और डबल AR है, जो ये बोल रहा है कि जो कंट्रीब्यूशन अगर 7500 से एक्सीड करेगा तो एग्जेम्पशन जो 7500 का वो नहीं मिलेगा, इज not in line with the words used in the notification which are exempting this transaction. What the word said, up to rupees 7500. So contrary to the express language of the entry in the question, both are stand quest. So they have questioned these opinions, the ruling and the circular. And to clarify, it is only contribution to the RWA at a residential welfare association in excess of rupees 7500 that will be taxable under GST Act. So this is very important Madras High Court judgment on this issue, that what is the value of the supply if the amount of contribution exceed the threshold exemption limit. So they have clearly said that any amount if paid exceeding the exemption limit, then exemption limit will be applicable and only differential amount is subject to GST, not the entire amount. So this is the very favorable judgment for all the SSCs. Now, what will be the issue? अब later on जो departments हैं वो notice issue करेंगे. अब issues आएगा उन societies के जो previously initially उस flyers को देखते हुए वो उन्होंने पूरे amount पे जो differential amount पे tax pay कर दिया. Now department has a view that it is subject to tax on entire amount. Now it is very difficult to collect taxes on entire amount for the old period, and even that they have taken the input tax credit considering the exempt portion, the proportionate ITC उन्होंने लिया होगा rule 42 43 को consider करते हुए. So they have to go with the serious implication with this view of the government or CBIC through this circular. So they can take the help of Madras High Court judgment and can fight in different states. Now, the major issue with respect to the transaction when the registration requirement on the society is applicable. So to cover up this entire aspect कि कब ये registration की requirement आएगी किसी society में, so we have one table, one flow chart on this aspect. What they said कि कब registration की requirement आएगी, तो let's discuss one by one from the left hand side. So registration requirement, if charges up to rupees 7500 per month per member. So registration requirement 7500 से exceed charges उससे कम है और aggregate turnover of that society is less than 20 lakh. So there will be no registration requirement. No registration requirement in this first case law. So 7500 से charges contribution भी कम है और 20 लाख से उनका एग्रीगेट टर्नओवर भी कम है, तो इस केस में कोई भी रजिस्ट्रेशन की रिक्वायरमेंट नहीं है. सेकंड केस 7500 से कंट्रीब्यूशन कम है, एग्रीगेट टर्नओवर 20 लाख से एक्सीड है, इस केस में भी कोई भी रजिस्ट्रेशन की रिक्वायरमेंट नहीं है, कंसीडरिंग दैट व्हेन देयर एंटायर अमाउंट इज एग्जेम्प्ट फ्रॉम जीएसटी, एंटायर टर्नओवर इज exempt from GST, irrespective of turnover the person is not required to take the registration. So कितना भी contribution हो 50 lakh 60 lakh, if per member contribution is less than 7500, so entire transaction, entire turnover is exempt turnover. So irrespective of the fact that 20 lakh से exceed कर रही है limit, उस केस में भी उन एसएससी को रजिस्ट्रेशन लेने की रिक्वायरमेंट नहीं रहेगी. अब now covering the third case law, charges more than 7500 per month per member. तो 7500 रुपए से ऊपर का कंट्रीब्यूशन है और एग्रीगेट टर्नओवर इज लेस देन 20 लाख रुपए. सो मैं ये कहना चाह रहा हूँ कि जहां पर जो मेंबर कंट्रीब्यूट कर रहे हैं वो 7500 से ऊपर कर रहे हैं, फॉर एग्जांपल 10,000 पर मंथ पर मेंबर, बट द एग्रीगेट टर्नओवर, एग्रीगेट रिसिप्ट थ्रू आउट द फाइनेंशियल ईयर does not exceed the threshold limit of 20 lakh rupees. तो 20 लाख से कम है, तो even though taxable transaction is there but aggregate turnover is less than 20 lakh, they will not be subject to GST, neither they are required to take the registration under GST. So In that case also 7500 के एक्सीड होने के बाद भी अगर एग्रीगेट टर्नओवर 20 लाख से कम है तो रजिस्ट्रेशन लेने की रिक्वायरमेंट भी नहीं है, ना कोई टैक्सेबल इम्प्लीकेशन इसका होगा। एंड द लास्ट एंड द फाइनल सिनेरियो इज जहां पर मंथ पर मेंबर कंट्रीब्यूशन 7500 से ज्यादा है और एग्रीगेट टर्नओवर उस सोसाइटी का 20 लाख से अधिक है, वी आर टेकिंग द 20 लाख लिमिट बिकॉज कंसिडरिंग इट इज सप्लाई ऑफ सर्विसेज। तो 20 लाख से एक्सीड कर रहा है तो इस केसेस में रजिस्ट्रेशन की रिक्वायरमेंट आएगी। सो इन द previous three scenarios or 3 case laws, there is no requirement for registration. So we can have a 2 parameter that whether per month contribution exceeds 7500, if yes, whether aggregate turnover exceed 20 lakh, if yes, if both are the yes, then only they have to take compulsory required to take the registration, the GST, and compulsory required to collect and pay on GST. So this is the scenario for registration and taxability with considering the overall exemption limit and considering the threshold limit for registration. Hope it is clear to all the members. If is there any doubt, please let me know. So इससे regarding कोई doubt है? So let's move ahead. Now the one question is also in the mind: what transaction should be included or excluded from rupees 7500? किस ट्रांजेक्शन को इंक्लूड करना है और एक्सक्लूड करना है 75, बिकॉज इट विल बी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट कि 7500 रुपए का जो कंट्रीब्यूशन है वो कैसे अराइव हो। सो व्हाट वी कैन से, सर्विसेज प्रोवाइड बाय सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट, state government, union territory or local authority to person other than business entity is exempt from GST, so it should not be included. So property tax, water tax, if collected by RWA डायरेक्टली, वो क्या कर रहे हैं कि एक साथ कलेक्ट कर रहे हैं और डिस्चार्ज कर रहे हैं स्टैट्यूटरी लायबिलिटी। प्रॉपर्टी टैक्स, वाटर टैक्स अगर RWA कलेक्ट कर रहा है ऑन बिहाफ ऑफ मेंबर्स, इंडिविजुअल फ्लैट ओनर्स, देन GST इज नॉट लेविएबल. So it should not be part of your 7500 limit or computation also. Next, similarly GST is not leviable on non-agriculture tax. So basically जो first part था उसमें ये ऑब्जेक्ट था कि there should not be a tax on tax. तो टैक्स ऑन टैक्स ना लगे, तो इसलिए उन्होंने कहा कि इस स्टेट ट्रांजैक्शन एग्जेम्प्ट है तो 7500 की लिमिट में भी ये नहीं आएगा. Similarly, GST is not leviable on non-agriculture tax, electricity charges which are collected under the other statutes from individual flat owners. तो इलेक्ट्रिसिटी चार्जेस भी जो है वो एग्रीगेट अगर कोई सोसाइटी साथ में कलेक्ट कर लेती है और एक साथ डिस्चार्ज करती है तो देयर विल बी नो टैक्स. बट द चार्जेस आर कलेक्टेड बाय सोसाइटी for generation of electricity by society generator or to provide drinking water facility or any other services, then such charges collected by the society are liable to GST. So अगर हम वो इलेक्ट्रिसिटी चार्जेस या ये चार्जेस जो कलेक्ट कर रहे हैं, बेसिकली उस जो इलेक्ट्रिसिटी का यूज है वो कॉमन फैसिलिटीज के लिए दिया जा रहा है, जैसे कि वाटर फैसिलिटी और उस जनरेटर के जो कॉमनली सबके लिए वो फैसिलिटी वो अवेलेबल है, उस केसेस में उन चार्जेस पे भी GST कलेक्ट किया जाएगा. एंड थर्ड, sinking fund, repair and maintenance fund, car parking charges, non-occupancy charges, simple interest for late payment attract GST, as these charges are collected by RWA or cooperative society for supply of service meant for its member. So this type के collections हैं, sinking fund, repair, maintenance, generally जो societies पैसा collect करती है, basically what are the maintenance funds are there, what are the covers, entire coverage of that maintenance charges is basically तो entire सोसाइटी जो कॉमन एरियाज है उनको मेंटेन करना. सेकंड, कार पार्किंग चार्जेस के नाम से कुछ पैसा लिया जाता है. थर्ड, कॉमन एमिनिटीज जो सभी मेंबर्स के बेनिफिट के लिए उनके लिए लिया जाता है. कई जगह नॉन ऑक्यूपेंसी चार्जेस भी लिया जाता है. सिंपल इंटरेस्ट कुछ लेट पेमेंट कर रहे हैं तो इट इज पार्ट ऑफ कंसिडरेशन, सो इट इज ऑल्सो सब्जेक्ट टू GST. तो अगर कोई लेट इन सिंपल इंटरेस्ट चार्ज कर रहे हैं, अगर डिले पेमेंट कर रहा है कोई मेंबर, तो उस पर भी GST अट्रैक्ट होगा. तो दिस इज ऑल the common contribution made by the member, and society is providing certain facilities or services to the members which is subject to GST. So as these charges are collected by cooperative society, supply of services meant for its members, so it is subject to GST. So this is the transaction which is subject to GST. Now Now, next question which comes to the mind, whether input tax credit on goods or services received by housing society will be available or not. What will be available? So जो सोसाइटी जब हम टैक्सेबिलिटी की बात कर रहे हैं तो सोसाइटी का जो इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट है, जो गुड्स इनपुट कैपिटल गुड्स इनपुट इनपुट सर्विसेज वो यूज कर रही है, वो अपने मेंबर्स को सर्विसेज प्रोवाइड करने के लिए एज अ प्योर एजेंट. सो वेदर द आईटीसी इज अवेलेबल, because most of the cases society does not have an intention to earn the profit. The major motive of the society is to facilitate the services with a common collected funds. So जो common services है वो एक pool of funds collect करके वो services provide करने का main object रहता है, and there is no profit motive object of the society. So whether ITC on goods or services procured by the society for to facilitate its member is available or not, let's discuss. So तीन चीजें हैं, कैपिटल गुड्स, इनपुट्स और इनपुट सर्विसेज. फर्स्ट, तो हाउसिंग सोसाइटी आर एंटाइटल्ड टू टेक आईटीसी ऑफ जीएसटी पेड बाय देम ऑन कैपिटल गुड्स लाइक जनरेटर, वाटर पंप, लॉन फर्नीचर एक्सेट्रा, बेसिकली मूवेबल आइटम्स. तो प्लांट एंड मशीनरी की जो डेफिनेशन में आए, सेक्शन 17(5) जो ब्लॉक क्रेडिट है उसके डेफिनेशन में ना आए, उस सब के आईटीसी आपको कैपिटल गुड्स के केस में मिलेगा. गुड्स तो आपको दो तीन चीजें ध्यान रखना है कि एक तो सेक्शन 17(5) जो कवर करता है ब्लॉक क्रेडिट, उसकी डेफिनेशन में वो फॉल नहीं करना चाहिए एंड मस्ट बी कवर्ड डेफिनेशन ऑफ प्लांट एंड मशीनरी और मूवेबल आइटम. और 17(5) के एक्सक्लूजन जो है उसमें कवर होना चाहिए, 17(5) के कैटेगरी में फॉल नहीं करना चाहिए. तो उस केसेस में आईटीसी आपको कैपिटल गुड्स का भी मिलेगा. गुड्स के केस में कुछ एग्जांपल जो दिया है, टैप्स, पाइप्स, अदर सैनिटरी हार्डवेयर फिटिंग जो जनरली यूज होती है उसका आईटीसी आपको मिलेगा. इनपुट सर्विसेज के केस में रिपेयर मेंटेनेंस सर्विसेज, सिक्योरिटी गार्ड सर्विसेज और अदर कोई मेंटेनेंस चार्जेस, हम लिफ्ट के जैसे एग्जांपल लिफ्ट रहती है तो उसका मेंटेनेंस चार्जेस पे करते हैं. तो इन सब केसेस में जो इनपुट सर्विसेज हम लेते हैं उस पे हमको बेनिफिट मिलेगा. सो विद दिस I have come out with my presentation. Now let's take one by one questions, and few questions I discuss one myself also so that entire question can be covered. First question that must be come into mind is that if the owner has 3 flats in a society and the contribution per flat is 5,000, so single member का 15,000 रुपया उसको contribution देना है. So whether it will be subject to GST or not. So board also have CBC also clarified, and it is a normal trend or a business scenario where each member is treated as each unit. So वहां पर अगर 3 फ्लैट से किसी के मेंबर के एक सोसाइटी में तो it will be treated as 3 unit and at the contribution per unit has to be seen. So in that case, even though the entire contribution by single member exceed rupees 7,500, but the per unit contribution is less than 7,500, there will be no taxability and the entire transaction will be exempt. उसके अलावा जो implication एक होगा, अगर हम उस सर्कुलर के और बोर्ड के इशू में जाते हैं तो 2 implications उसमें जो होने हैं कि हमने इनिशियली क्या किया कि डिफरेंशियल अमाउंट पे जीएसटी पे कर दिया. नाउ इफ अगर कोई सोसाइटी फेवरेबल जो सर्कुलर है उसके व्यू को कलेक्ट जाती है और एंटायर अमाउंट पे जीएसटी कलेक्ट करती है अपने मेंबर से और प्रीवियसली भी उसको कलेक्ट करना है, तो व्हाट विल बी द इम्प्लीकेशन? फर्स्ट, दे हैव टू बेसिकली collect the GST and discharge the GST liability of and the entire amount and collect from this. Further, if they have taken the ITC exemption, अब now refund भी उनको claim करना पड़ेगा because अगर वो पूरे amount पे tax दे रहे हैं, they are also eligible for full ITC, then they should also claim the refund on that aspect, considering the entire amount. Now even अगर for example कोई society पूरे amount पे दे रही है, now the High Court judgment of the Madras High Court given the favorable judgment, and now society want to shift that कि हम entire amount पे GST पे कर रहे हैं, now we want to shift the differential amount, then also they have to claim the refund, and before applying for the refund or excess tax paid, first they have to refund the entire extra amount collected from the members, so that to done away with the concept of unjust enrichment, so that they can claim the refund of the excess amount also, provided the officers accept the judgment of Honorable Madras High Court and maybe department has gone away for Supreme Court also for against this judgment, but this is a very welcome judgment and it will be beneficial for all the housing society, and they must take this judgment and get the judgment in their state also for the benefits of this judgment. So I request all the members, if is there any other query with respect to this transaction, please let me know. I request all the members to have their query. Let's take one query which is on the chat box. Can housing society charge GST once the base limit of 7,500 is breached and subsequently cancel the registration once the limit comes below 7,500? Okay. तो सर इसमें जो दो चीजें हैं, अगर 7,500 से एक्सीड करते हैं और 20 लाख से आपका अगर थ्रेशोल्ड लिमिट क्रॉस नहीं कर रहा है तो देयर इज नो रजिस्ट्रेशन रिक्वायरमेंट, और दोनों कर रहा है और आपने रजिस्ट्रेशन ले लिया, लेटर ऑन द 7,500 से कम हो गया, तो जो 20 लाख की जो लिमिट थी वो प्रीवियस फाइनेंशियल ईयर में जनरली देखना है, तो यू हैव टू वेट, तो प्रीवियस फाइनेंशियल ईयर आपकी 20 लाख से कम है तभी आपको रजिस्ट्रेशन से एग्जम्पशन मिलेगा, और 7,500 से कम है तभी आपको एग्जम्पशन मिलेगा. सो लेटर ऑन यू कैन कैंसिल योर रजिस्ट्रेशन. What do you, sir, what do you mean by electricity collected under other statutes? तो बेसिकली सर इलेक्ट्रिसिटी जनरली क्या हो रहा है कि जो इलेक्ट्रिसिटी हम इलेक्ट्रिसिटी इज नॉट सब्जेक्ट टू जीएसटी, वेरियस एक्ट्स और गवर्नमेंट बॉडीज आर देयर फॉर इलेक्ट्रिसिटी चार्जेस. हम इलेक्ट्रिसिटी अगर वो कलेक्ट करते हैं और कुछ चार्जेस टैक्सेस भी उसमें इम्प्लीकेट होते हैं कि टैक्सेस भी, कुछ इलेक्ट्रिसिटी टैक्स भी लोकल स्टेट गवर्नमेंट या ले रही है उस पर, तो उस केसेस में तो कि दे शुड नॉट बी अ टैक्स ऑन टैक्स, और इलेक्ट्रिसिटी इज ऑल्सो नॉट सब्जेक्ट टू जीएसटी. तो जनरली क्या होता है कि इंडिविजुअली मेंबर्स अपना इलेक्ट्रिसिटी बिल खुद पे करते हैं, लेकिन अगर कहीं पर ये एफर्ट किया जा रहा है कि एग्रीगेट करके सबका अमाउंट कलेक्ट करके वो पे किया जा रहा है तो उस चार्जेस पर नहीं लगेगा. सो व्हाट दे सेड कि जो प्राइवेटली कंज्यूम इलेक्ट्रिसिटी है उस पर जीएसटी नहीं लगेगा, लेकिन जो कॉमनली यूज एमिनिटीज के लिए जो इलेक्ट्रिसिटी लग रहा है और उसके लिए जो चार्जेस कलेक्ट कर रहे हैं उस पर जीएसटी लगेगा. होप यू गेट माय आंसर. आई रिक्वेस्ट ऑल द मेंबर्स टू हैव देयर क्वेश्चन. आप अनम्यूट करके भी अपने क्वेश्चंस पूछ सकते हैं. I also request organizers to request all the members to have their questions on the topic. Hope my presentation has been a quick presentation on the topic, has given covered all the aspects of this society. Further, I was requested by the host that please cover for the GSTPAM also, whether the contribution made by the members to GSTPAM is subject to GST or not. And I, in this, considering the definition of business, considering the definition of person, and considering this addition done by this, so I must say that contribution by the members to any association, if the entire receipt exceed the 20 lakhs for the financial year, then they must be take registration, and they must also discharge the GST liability if the threshold limit 20 lakh is crossed. And they are compulsory required to take the registration considering the entire GST Act definition and the supply definition, supply section, section 7.
Sir, I'll just interrupt you for a minute. GSTPM, though being a trust, we have been collecting GST and paying it to the government from day one since it was implemented. We used to pay service tax on quite a few things, not on the membership fees. Not on some fees, but on membership fees and other activity fees, we used to pay service tax as well. GST has been paid on almost all the services, all the goods that have been sold, except for books which are exempt by the notification itself.
Great, sir.
And there's one more question in the Q&A tab. If you could permit me, I would just
yes,
like to read on behalf of Mr. Deepak.
Yes,
what happens if one or some members exceed the per month limit of 7,500 due to interest or some other charges?
Okay, very interesting question, sir. कि इनका सर का कहना है कि फॉर एग्जांपल 100 मेंबर्स और सिंपल इंटरेस्ट के कारण वो 7,500 पर मंथ कंट्रीब्यूशन बढ़ जाता है. सो देयर मस्ट बी पर मंथ कंट्रीब्यूशन फर्स्ट. इफ per month contribution exceed the 7,500, then it will be subject to GST. तो उन ट्रांजैक्शन पे जीएसटी लगेगा, बाकी जो मेंबर्स है उस पर जीएसटी नहीं लगेगा. मेरा ये व्यू है.
Our chairman has raised his hand. Asit bhai, you would like to mention something?
Yeah. So मेरा भी एक छोटा सा query है विकास जी के लिए. I think all the queries has been taken up, right?
Yes, there's one more in the chat box, but we can take it later. You please put the view.
Yeah. विकास जी क्या हो रहा था during this COVID period? The Bombay municipality has requested all the societies to carry out the function of giving the doses to their members as well as to the surrounding societies, vaccination facility. So many society, what they have done, they have organized this kind of camp. They have approached the hospitals and then done a vaccination center over there.
Right.
So what has been decided that bank hospital को बताया कि they will charge say 800 rupees per member, right, for vaccination charges. What society has done, they have circulated this news, collected 800 rupees by the society and then paid it to the hospitals.
Right.
Now the question, all the money has come into the bank account of the society.
Right.
And society has paid the same amount to this hospital. So
Right.
now the question has come up whether this collection of 8 lakhs rupees by the society from members as well as the non-members would amount to supply of services. Supply of services, sorry.
Okay.
That is the short and sweet question.
Right. So the two aspects we have to see. First, key whether monthly contribution exceeding 7,500 or not. If it is not exceeding, there is no question of taxability. And the second is whether the aggregate turnover across 20 lakh limit. The society which you are talking, I think 20 lakh limit is crossing.
Because of vaccination, 20 lakhs cross हो जाता है.
Yes. So 7,500 अगर cross नहीं होता तो there is no question of taxability and the entire transaction is exempt from GST. If the other question also, if there is a 7,500 already crossing, whether 800 rupees is subject to GST, in my view, it is subject to GST because it is a common services for all the members and it is collected on behalf of members.
Because यहाँ तो member तो I believe member is 50%, 50% is non-members.
Okay.
That's why I've said what society has done outside, maybe surrounding societies, they have circulated the message that in our society we are doing this vaccination program because everywhere it is not available.
Okay.
बराबर है तो non-members भी वहाँ आ गए, non-members के पास से भी contribution लिया and same amount has been paid.
Okay.
So this question has come up. See, मैंने members के पास से लिए है, मैं 7,500 वो सब गिनूंगा. What about non-members? That is the biggest crux.
Okay. In this case, sir, considering basically तो members ही नहीं है तो कोई contribution है नहीं उनका. उसके अलावा नॉर्मल सर ये एक सर्विसेज प्रोवाइड कर रही है सोसाइटी और ये हाउसिंग के अलग चीज है. हाउसिंग सोसाइटी के चार्जेस नहीं है, मेंटेनेंस चार्जेस नहीं है. तो इन माय व्यू इट इज सब्जेक्ट टू सर्विस. चाहे सर्विसेज प्रोवाइड कर रही है सोसाइटी के लिए कॉमन, तो इट इज सब्जेक्ट टू जीएसटी एंड 7,500 थ्रेशोल्ड इज नॉट एप्लीकेबल इन दैट केस इन माय व्यू.
Correct. So this is the very burning issue which is nowadays going on over here.
Because 7,500 is the benefit given to the residents of the society.
True. Sir. Only the thing is that we were considering कि इसको हम pure agent में लेके जाएं.
Pure agent, yeah.
Right. But pure agent में भी scope fit करना बहुत difficult है.
Very difficult.
वहाँ because the data which जो invoices आते हैं that also doesn't come in the name of the members.
Right.
Those to whom the vaccination has been provided.
Yes,
the contract has been entered with the society itself and not with the members.
Yes, there is no liability of individual member to the
yes.
So there cannot be a concept of pure agent.
Commitment has been given while entering into a contract.
Okay. So it will be a challenge, but initially we can say that it will be a subject to taxable irrespective of 7,500 limit.
Correct. Okay. Thank you.
Kushlani sir has raised his hand. Kushlani sir.
Mr. Vikas.
Yes, sir.
As you said, suppose the interest is charged to the member.
Right.
And amount goes to above 7,500.
Okay.
Then suppose 7,000 is the member's contribution and 700 is the interest amount.
Okay.
So you mean to say that 7,700 के ऊपर GST लगेगा or only on 700?
सर इसमें अब दो चीजें मतलब जो क्लैरिफिकेशन है, अगर हम बोर्ड के जो सीबीईसी का माइंडसेट है, तो दे हैव इशूड अ सर्कुलर दैट दे वांट टू टैक्स द एंटायर ट्रांजैक्शन. अगर 7,500 के क्रॉस करता है एंड द इंटरेस्ट इज पार्ट ऑफ योर कंसिडरेशन, तो इंटरेस्ट इज द पार्ट ऑफ कंसिडरेशन, 7,500 एक्सीड हो गया. अगर बोर्ड के सर्कुलर के पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से जाए तो दे वांट टू टैक्स द एंटायर ट्रांजैक्शन और 7,700 पूरा लगेगा. लेकिन मद्रास हाई कोर्ट के जजमेंट को अगर हम फॉलो करते हैं, उससे हम बेनिफिट लेना चाहते हैं, तो देन द डिफरेंशियल अमाउंट हैज टू बी पेड ऑन जीएसटी.
Because there was one FAQ also with regard to that, and
yes, exactly,
clearly specified that above 7,500, if 7,000 minimum deduction will be there,
yes, yes.
Whatever charges are above,
yes, yes,
that will be charged separately.
Yes, we have even a flyer of the CBIC.
Yeah, that's
clearly said on record. This is also available on the website of CBEC right now also. They have not deleted so far. So even they have one flyer on the other flyer also, where they have amended, where they were deliberately amended that provision also. But in the previous flyer, we have the copy of that flyer. They have said that GST will be on the differential amount, not the entire amount.
Yeah.
Yes. Even the Madras High Court judgment has clearly fact, because अगर Madras High Court के अगर हम judgment को देखेंगे तो what are the major facts there? उन्होंने कहा कि what is the taxable. तो एक जैसे एग्जांपल हम लेते हैं कि फॉर अदर सोर्सेस इनकम के लिए हम बोलते हैं कि गिफ्ट अगर 50,000 से ऊपर मिलता है तो एंटायर अमाउंट इज सब्जेक्ट टू टैक्सेबल. तो व्हाट दे हैव सेड, एक एग्जांपल उन्होंने मद्रास हाई कोर्ट के जजमेंट में अगर हम देखेंगे तो एक एग्जांपल कोट किया गया उसमें कि फॉर एग्जांपल एक आर्टिस्ट अगर जिसका अगर सिंगल परफॉर्मेंस के लिए उसको फीस मिलती है, इफ इट इज लेस देन 1,50,000 then exemption is applicable. If it is more than like 50,000, 1,50,000, entire amount is taxable. But what the word used in the case of 7,500 limit is up to 7,500. What they said कि exemption is applicable up to rupees 7,500, not less than or more than.
Yeah.
So up to अगर जो word है वो basically करता है कि ये this is a permanent benefit given to the members. So उन्होंने ये डिस्कस किया उसी पे कि हमने ये लेस देन मोर देन वर्ड यूज नहीं किया है. व्हाट द टर्मिनोलॉजी यूज इज द अप टू, दैट द एग्जेम्पशन इज परमानेंट इररिस्पेक्टिव द अमाउंट. सो इफ इट एक्सीड यू विल बी गेटिंग द मिनिमम बेनिफिट अप टू रुपीज 7,500. तो उस वर्ड को पिकअप करते हुए उन्होंने फेवरेबल जजमेंट दिया और उन्होंने स्पेसिफिकली मेंशन किया वो आर्टिस्ट वाला केस भी कि फॉर एग्जांपल कुमार विश्वास यहाँ परफॉर्मेंस देने आ रहे हैं, ही इज चार्जिंग 5 लाख रुपीज फॉर अ सिंगल इवेंट. So it will be subject to GST on entire 5 lakh. If any other artist is charging only 1 lakh rupees for one event, then entire transaction is exempt from GST because the word less than use and that exemption.
Thank you,
sir.
Aditya, Deepak Bhai has raised one question.
Yes, I was coming to that.
Yeah.
The query reads as sinking fund repair fund liable to GST. Entire amount liable if it exceeds rupees 7,500. Forest County CHS Limited, Maharashtra AAR. The citation number is there. Dated 4th August 2021. You are advised to the societies.
Okay. सर मेरा तो एक ये व्यू रहेगा कि अगर हम सेव बेसिकली वी कैन कलेक्ट टैक्सेस बट वी डोंट शो एज अ टेक एज अ डिपॉजिट इनिशियली फॉर सेफ्टी ऑफ द सिक्योरिटी डिपॉजिट बेसिकली एंड यू कैन डिस्चार्ज द लायबिलिटी ऑन द डिफरेंशियल पार्ट कंसिडरिंग द मद्रास हाई कोर्ट जजमेंट. ठीक है. सो इफ लेटर ऑन देयर इज अ लायबिलिटी then they can use the deposit fund to discharge the liability. Or if you want to go with the safer view, then you have to collect and discharge the liability and the entire amount. But my view that if you can double AR, apply for double AR or triple AR, and most likely you don't get the favorable outcome there, and you can apply to the High Court with the substantial amount on the basis of Madras High Court judgment and get the benefit of that judgment, unless the contrary judgment is pronounced by Supreme Court. So in my view, differential amount can be taken, but it will be considering that whether we can collect later on if there is a adverse implication whether we can collect the differential amount from the all the clients or not. So in safer view, you can take the deposits from the member as a security deposit, not at the maintenance charges, so that later on if there is adverse consequence on part of department, and if the adverse judgments on the, what, so you can use that fund to discharge a GST liability also. But the same will be subject to interest later on if it's go either way.
So there's one more question in the chat box. Our society is under redevelopment with a builder under development agreement of 2012 and supplementary development agreement of January 2019. Should builder levy GST on construction services, and at what rate? Rates under new scheme or under works contract, etc. The second query is, what will be the time of supply at the time of completion certificate or at the time of at the time of commencement certificate? I presume it is CC is written, or at the time of OC, that is your occupancy certificate. Reference notification number 4 of 2019, which is applicable in case of all the development agreements before 1 2019, 1st April 2019.
Very interesting question has been put up by the member. I think Ashish ji also please contribute for this question. I'll share my views on that topic. First, that redevelopment. What is a redevelopment? Basically, we have to look with the RERA prospect also. What the RERA law says about that prospect. What if there's a requirement for fresh RERA registration for that project or not? If there is no such requirement and it's only a normal redevelopment activity or basically a repair maintenance work, but looking at the wordings used, I think it is a complete redevelopment. And if there's a requirement for fresh RERA registration, because the word RERA is very important, and is there a requirement for fresh completion certificate also. So considering that GST will be leviable on the under construction property, and there is no exemption as such on that. Should builder levy GST on construction services as at what rate? What rate will be? So considering the rate, there's a two rate structure right now in the case of builders, 1% and 5%. 5% is for the basically 1% is for example जो एक लिमिट है जहां पर थ्रेशोल्ड लिमिट 45 लाख रुपीस और जो स्मॉल हाउसिंग स्कीम है गवर्नमेंट की उसके नीचे आता है तो 1%, and the जो above that figure there is a 5% rate is there without any ITC, so that will be the rate applicable on that scheme. Whether it is a new scheme, I think all the projects which are new, it's subject to new scheme only. There is no benefit given for the older scheme for the redevelopment also. What will be the time of supply? The time of supply, time of OC. Time of supply is right now also. Basically, the redevelopment activities is done right now, and that all together a new construction activity which is going on. So the time of supply will be current period, not the previous period. Please, Ashish ji, can you share please your views on that issue? I tried my best to answer that.
No. Your view is perfectly right, Vikas, absolutely not. So first of all, I would request the members कि जो topic है उसी पे basically question होने चाहिए, right? Because the speaker is from that subject. Of course, the speaker is very learned, so he can very well give the total views on the GST. There is absolutely no problem. But फिर भी looking to this query, ये query आपकी जो मेरे हिसाब से है कि since the development agreement has been signed in 2012 and supplementary deed has been executed in 2019, that means in GST era. So he wanted to understand whether मेरा 2012 का rate applicable होगा 12% or 2019 का rate would be applicable. So if you look at to the section 141 and 142 residual जो section है कि whatever work which has been completed under erstwhile law, that means till 30th June 2017, उसी में old rate applicable होगा. Suppose whatever construction work has been started after 1st July 2017, उसके ऊपर new rate लगेगा. Then the important challenges would be say the supplementary deed which has been entered, for what purpose that deed has been entered, whether there is any dispute, इसलिए किया construction work चालू था नहीं था, ये सारे के ऊपर it will depend at what rate the tax would be levied, when it would be levied, whether in the old regime और न्यू रिजिम, ये उसी के ऊपर डिपेंड करते हैं, इसी के ऊपर करना बहुत डिफिकल्ट है। बट वन थिंग इज वेरी मच श्योर कि व्हाटएवर इफ यू हैव enter into a development agreement after 1/4/2019, the whole project is under the new scheme or a new regime. If any project has been entered prior to 1/4/2019, then it would be under the old regime. इस हिसाब से पूरी taxation होनी चाहिए।
एक क्वेरी चैट बॉक्स में है, हाउसिंग सोसाइटी liable to registration has not got itself registered. Okay, but now the limit of ₹7,500 per member is crossing. Can it get registered now, and what will be the consequences of non-registration? Sir, तो बेसिकली आपका ये क्वेश्चन है कि पहले आपका 7500 में जो समझ पा रहा हूँ कि 7500 पर मेंबर कंट्रीब्यूशन उससे कम था, लेकिन 20 लाख की लिमिट क्रॉस हो गई थी, तो ये हैव नॉट टेकन द रजिस्ट्रेशन। सो डिपार्टमेंट कैन फॉर द नॉन टेकन ऑफ रजिस्ट्रेशन, डिपार्टमेंट जनरल पेनाल्टी जो है 25,000 पर लॉ, सीजीएसटी एक्ट, एसजीएसटी एक्ट, वो लेवी कर सकता है आपके ऊपर कि आपने रजिस्ट्रेशन लेने की रिक्वायरमेंट थी, आपने रजिस्ट्रेशन नहीं लिया। लेकिन इस केस में मेरा व्यू है क्योंकि एंटायर 20 लाख की जब तक अगर 7500 से आपकी कम है लिमिट, so if you go through my registration slide, you don't require to take the registration because your limit is less than 7500. So 75 to, because your entire transaction is exempt unless otherwise there is a taxable transaction also. If your entire transaction is exempt, and even though then you are crossing the threshold limit, is you don't require to take the registration. Later on, like 7500 आप क्रॉस कर रहे हैं, उस केस में क्या होगा? तो दिस 30 days टाइम लिमिट इज गिवन, जहां पर जैसी आपकी टैक्सेबिलिटी आती है, यू कैन टेक द रजिस्ट्रेशन विद इन 30 days ऑफ द टैक्सेबल इवेंट। तो जिस मंथ पे, जिस पीरियड पे आपकी टैक्सेबिलिटी आती है, उस पीरियड से 30 दिन के अंदर आपको रजिस्ट्रेशन लेना चाहिए। तो वहां से आप रजिस्ट्रेशन ले लीजिए, और अगर थोड़ा लेट भी हुआ है तो यह डिस्चार्ज जीएसटी लायबिलिटी आफ्टर द जिस पीरियड में आपकी रजिस्ट्रेशन की रिक्वायरमेंट आ गई है, और या जिस पीरियड में आपका टैक्सेबल ट्रांजेक्शन हो गया है, वहां से आपको इंटरेस्ट के साथ भी डिस्चार्ज करना पड़ेगा। So first case, you don't require to take registration if 7500 is less than, provided your entire receipt is non-taxable.
Aditya.
Yes, sir.
Our senior member Ashwin Tanna wanted to speak. Whether is it possible कि उनको चैट में ही बात करना पड़ेगा?
सर एक और इम्पोर्टेंट क्वेरी है चैट बॉक्स में, बिल्डर टेकन मेंटेनेंस चार्जेस एट टाइम ऑफ सेल ऑफ फ्लैट, time of supply in this case is when, and that they have to pay GST when they have received the amount flat, adjust against the ITC available with them, or to pay it in the cash. So basically what is the question, that generally it is a tendency, or generally it is a market trend that most of the case builder collect 3 to 4 years maintenance charges in advance, but not as a maintenance charges, it is part of the consideration for works contract basically. तो इस केस में जो 1%, 5% का जो नॉर्मल टैक्स एप्लीकेबल है वही वो लगेगा, तो कि कंप्लीशन सर्टिफिकेट नहीं है, तो उस केसेस में आपको मेंटेनेंस, उसका आईटीसी भी आपको नहीं मिलेगा, बिकॉज द कंस्ट्रक्शन कंप्लीशन सर्टिफिकेट के पहले वो 1% या 5% पे टैक्सेबल होगा, एंड दैट इज कवर्ड अंडर नो आईटीसी सिनेरियो इन माय हम्बल व्यू।
Yes, Chairman sir, host Sejal madam will have to unmute, or you can also unmute. I'm not being the co-host, so you can unmute Tanna sir.
लेकिन मुझे तो तन्ना सर यहाँ attendees है।
Yeah, in the attendees he is there as Ashwin NTC, I think 2121. That must be his name.
Vikas sir.
Yes sir.
Can you hear me sir? Thank you so
much. Sir. Yes sir. Yes sir. Please.
One funny query is with me sir.
Yes sir.
Now suppose under the given society, the society says the members contributions require in a year 21 lakh rupees.
Okay.
Right, per member.
Okay.
It's a big project anyway, whatever it may be. Then member says we don't want to register ourselves society and everything. He pays in a year 19 lakhs and 2 lakh rupees given donation. Donation is not covered under contribution.
Okay.
What will happen, sir?
मतलब आप ये कहना चाह रहे हैं कि सर सिंगल मेंबर कोई सोसाइटी फॉर्मेशन नहीं हो रहा है, single members have contribution मांग रहे हैं 21 lakh rupees lump sum amount, right?
हाँ, 21 lakh rupees society is asking, but society don't want to get registered under service tax for compliance and everything.
Okay.
He said you pay 19 lakhs. He is contributing 19 lakhs. 2 lakhs rupees each member giving donation, which is not recovered through maintenance bill.
Okay.
What will be the situation, sir?
So in this case, in my view, society basically society aggregate turnover will fall exceed the 20 lakh rupees.
No, here you said 20 lakhs rupees per member, you said, sir, for registration.
No. 20 lakh is limit for society.
Society.
Right.
Then it's okay.
20 lakh is the limit for society.
Okay, then it's okay, sir. I'm sorry, I misunderstand this query.
Yes, yes. Society.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
So, is any further queries are there we should take up, or with the permission of chair, I would proceed for the further proceedings?
Yeah, I think there are no other further queries. Then we can conclude the session.
There's one query in the question and answer thing. I'll just read it out. Whether society is required to register as they are availing services of security services and lawyers which are subject to RCM. Monthly contribution is less than 7,500 and turnover is below 20 lakhs.
Right. Very relevant question the member has raised. For the we have to go the compulsory registration section, where they say you have to take the compulsory registration where the you are covered under reverse charge mechanism under section 9.3 and 9.4. So going by that provision, you have to take the registration and comply with the provision. So there is a compulsory registration option given for these cases, section 9.3 and 9.4. Any contrary view, please request all the other members to share their views on this matter.
खाली lawyer रहेगा तो नहीं आएगा ना. Suppose instead of security services, if the society has paid to the lawyer some amount and the turnover is less than threshold limit, then it will not be applicable.
Right. Yes.
Because specific exemption has been given.
For lawyers, right?
Yeah.
Lawyers are always lawyers.
Nah. Yeah.
So
Yeah, Aditya.
we are coming to the final session, final thing for this session. I would like to propose a hearty vote of thanks. Vikas sir, it has always been a difficult topic to understand, and then so many ARs and notifications coming up, amendments to the law coming up. But as of now, whatever the law position stands, you have explained to us in a very lucid manner. I hope everybody has understood what to do. At least there's some more amendment coming to the law, or some notification coming, or the limits being amended by the government. But I would like to thank you on behalf of GSTPAM, our LNR committee, Law and Representation Committee, all the participants for your valuable time on this 11th hour of all the due dates. I would also like to thank all the office bearers who have attended today's webinar. I would like to thank my chairman of LNR committee, Asit Bhai Shah, to proposing the topic and being in the session for contributing to the topic. Lastly, I would like to thank all the participants who have attended this webinar in large numbers. Thank you very much. With the permission of the chair, I declare that the session is concluded.
I am very thankful to all the office bearers of the GSTPAM, Ashish ji, Aditya ji, and all the members who have attended this webinar. I am very thankful to be the part of this family, and I look forward to contribute any such organized events or physical event also. I will be love to be there. It's very nice platform. It's been pleasure for me to contribute for all the members. and I am thankful to all the members who have given. Hope I have justified with your time. And is there any query, is there any other difficulty in the presentation or any other clarification you need? That clarification, I have given the contribution. I will share my presentation with all the concerned officials. It will be get circulated to all the members. Thank you all the members.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vikas.
Thank you, Vikas ji.
Yeah,
Thank you, Vikas ji.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Well, chalo Vikas.
Thank you.
Happy New Year to you all.
Happy New Year to all.
Yes.
Yeah, in advance.
काम पे लगो.
काम पे लगो भाई, काम पे लगो.
Okay.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Bye.